All right, hi, and welcome to live session for June 30th, last day of June. All right, so we got a newbie today, um, Montgomery House the Third. So let's see, this is your reference shot of Pennywise, and you did this in Unreal 5. It's looking pretty good already. Yeah, sure. So I have a couple of notes. I think you've got the basic direction and, everything pretty much right. Obviously he's mostly underlit. I mean, I call it underlining. It's somewhat from camera, but you can see the darkness above his cheeks and over his brow. So it's not like heavily underlit, but he's still definitely underlit. And he's got some sort of greenish rim on him, and the scene is pretty dark all around. So you've got a heavy underlight, and the green rim, and it is dark everywhere. Okay, so my comments are that I think, for one, despite the fact that this looks extremely dark, I mean, this could be partially due to the frame grab, but there's a little bit of ambient light in there, and you kind of see it in the darks as well, right? Like, these areas aren't black; they're slightly green or whatever, whatever the fill light is. And I think that's something that you're kind of missing. I mean, where there's actually a fill, you've got it, but then some of these areas are really black, and I suspect there's actually nothing back there because that feels entirely black. So one thing that for sure I would do is get a little bit more, and it can be pretty dim, ambient, let's say this green color everywhere. So I mean, that should be kind of filling in. By filling, I mean ever so slightly tinting all of these really dark, like the super blacks, should pick up a little bit of that color the way that it does here. All right, so, and then the next thing is, I mean, you've got this underlight thing going, in the right direction. I do think it's a little too strong, though, because it feels like you might be breaking his materials a little bit. Like, this feels like the diffuse getting hit really, really hard. Like, these areas, maybe that has some spec, but it's really burning out. So I think it feels too strong. The placement's right. It's the intensity. So if you look at this, obviously this is nowhere near as strong. So it's kind of a different feel. And I mean, this has a supernatural feel to it. It's not completely inappropriate, but I am worried that you're actually hitting it so hard that you're starting to break materials. All right, so I did do a paint over. Oh, another thing, well, we can talk about it here. All right, so here's paint over and what you came in with. So, so yeah, there's some light amounts of green in the darks, right? I didn't try to repaint the lighting of the underlighting. Is a little too much. So, oops. So instead, I just kind of dimmed it a little bit. But if you do that in an actual in lighting rather than in comp, those values will go down, and hopefully you won't you won't get these clipping things that are happening. But, I think you can go lower and still maintain the focus. You want the face to be the most important thing in frame, and it still is. You can definitely see as I tried to bring this stuff down, it's totally screwing up the colors and stuff. So that's no good. You don't want that, obviously. All right, so yeah. And the other thing is, rather than keep this entirely black, I think you could introduce some atmosphere, so that as the set backs away, it's picking up some color, and it really should be the color of your fill light, your rim light, because it just makes sense. And what's nice about it is, by having this kind of blue green, this turquoise thing, it gives you some great color contrast with your the sort of red fill you have, and also the underlight. So I think it brings more attention to the character, and it kind of rounds the whole thing out, especially because once you fill the darks with that same color, and you have some on this side, it feels a little bit more natural, even though it's supernatural, and draws your eye to the middle. So I think you could play with the intensity of this. If you really want it that hot, you could probably get away with it. But if you're going to do that, try having the light be less diffuse and more specular, because it does feel like a fire or something, in which case there'd be a lot of specular from it because it's not that close, but less diffuse. The diffuse would have probably fallen off somewhat already. All right, but it's pretty cool looking image. I think you did a good job. Keep going, or start a new one if you want. All right, thanks. Kristina, you here? You are here. Great.
Yes. Hello.
Hi. So, okay, so this is, oh, that's your new one. Okay, this is where you were last week, or last time.
Yeah.
And the new one. Okay, cool. So, some things definitely improved. The paper is reading better. I think, overall, I don't think the shape changed much. Well, a little bit on the back wall. It got brighter and more visible. I think that's good and bad. I like the color. I think it got a little too bright, but I have some thoughts about that. The pose is probably better overall. And you went much brighter on the crystal ball, which I think helps. And you can still see something in there without it being entirely clear. Like, we don't really need to know that there's a buck in there. You kind of get a sense that there's a magical creature, and I think that's fine. All right, so my thoughts about this in general are, okay, you got this nice bright source now. It feels like it's a really hot source. What's missing, the biggest thing that's missing, is the sense of this being so bright that it is, that it's doing this, and this should really be casting, her form should be casting shadows, and you should see a big spooky shadow of her hat, and maybe not the hands so much, because those are kind of self-illuminated magic hands, but you should feel her casting a shadow, and that will make this light source feel even stronger. Hey, Caro. All right, so that's kind of a general note, because not only should it be happening, there where it's like all of her um, silhouette being sort of, painted on the wall as shadow, but even in here, like in her body, there's are these rim lights? Are they coming from the arms? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, they're coming from the arms,
Yeah.
at least a portion of it.
Yeah, I know we were talking about this, and these arms are confusing because, ideally you kind of want, this to be so strong that it feels like, she's getting hit with the light of that, on her front, and you can feel a darker side to make the, the area where she's getting blasted by this supernatural light to really shine. And then unfortunately, you've got these other sources right there that kind of fill in those areas and negate that. So like that's a really tricky thing to pull off. I mean, I see you have a little bit of dark core here, but so little that it's actually just flattening her out, you know. That's the one thing you really don't want. So I would really recommend in this case, just kind of give up on the arms and let's just pretend that the hands are self-illuminated and magical. It's for whatever reason, the magic hands are wearing a shirt that isn't so magical.
Gotcha.
Is it'll just help. All right. And the other thing is like do you have a spherical light here that's really strong that's doing the actual work, or how is this set up?
I have the strongest light in the globe, but then I have another one a little bit closer to her so that it's brighter, because without it, it really isn't that bright.
Well, maybe you need to
Which
make
is
it.
weird because it'll illuminate everything else, but
Oh, really? Like, is this coming from here, or is that a different light?
yeah, that one's coming from that one. I also have like another one that's like a bluish tint in like behind her, but it's not super strong.
Because I mean, I would think that if there's a light here, and especially if it's like that big, more or less, there should be a big ass shadow behind her.
Okay.
On
I'll
the
try to
wall.
crank it up more. Maybe
Okay. So yeah,
that
maybe
might
it's
help.
getting lost in your fill light is just completely. So let me show you my paint over for this. All right, I did another thing. I like the color of this thing was, I think it's a little too neutral, right?
Okay.
Like you could, this is an excellent place to play with the color of that, because since you already have this sort of, fuchsia magenta thing, if you push this more cyan, you get some nice color contrast.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not that far. I think at one point this was more this color. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
So
like the very, very first one.
so I don't know if I told you to not do that, but I'd say go back to it.
Okay.
So if I did tell you not to do it, I apologize. All right. So here's that big ass shadow on the wall. So I basically what did I do? Okay, I kept the purplish hue in there, but darkened it up some. And then now, because this thing is cyan, the light that's hitting, the light that isn't shadowed by her, I had to push a little bit more cyan than you have. But that's cool, because then you get a little bit of color contrast there as well. This is a little bit greener, this is a little bit redder. So not only, I mean, well, just in general, like if you can manage to get both color contrast and value contrast in, that helps a lot, because then it's not just this one thing that's you're relying on to create the hierarchy in your frame. You've got like two systems that you can play against one another, or in parallel. It helps a lot.
Okay.
So, okay, what else did I do here? Yeah, so I mean, once this thing gets really bright, you would also expect to see, more spec hits, highlights on the things that would naturally be shiny. So like, I'm assuming that all this trim and stuff is sort of metallic. She's got these things. All these things are probably metallic in whatever this is in her hair as well. So those would pick up nice highlights from here.
Yeah.
So I just kind of painted in some white highlights, which is pretty much what it would be. It'd be white.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Oops. Okay. And let's see what else. Oh, I like that you changed your magic bubbles to magic butterflies. I think that's a really good move. So I mean, presumably, I guess they'd be the same color as the crystal ball. They don't have to be. I mean, you could.
It'll probably make sense.
Yeah, I think it does, and again, it sort of it just helps pull your eye into her, because then it's not as busy. If they suddenly became, I mean, they could become fuchsia maybe, but then I don't know if that would help or if that would hurt. So this definitely works anyway. So, not only if these things are self-illuminated and the hands are self-illuminated, and obviously this is, you've got a lot of places where you could be, a lot of sources that could be casting shadows from objects in the scene, and also being bright enough that the set or her would be picking up spec hits from it. So like this butterfly here that's really close to the bookshelf would be kind of lighting up that area of the bookshelf, even though a part of it is in shadow, and picking up some spec hits as well, which will make it, the set feel attached to the butterfly, or vice versa. And like these pieces of paper, they're white, so they could sort of pick up color from all of these things, and even highlights as well. And that'll help integrate this stuff. Excuse me. Because these are, well, I mean, you've got some color in there, but it's more dynamic especially if they pick up this fuchsia a little bit. Let's see. So okay, yeah, this is what I was talking about. Like, I darkened, I turned off the sleeves basically, and then darkened these areas so that she rolls off into shadow, because then it really feels more like she's getting lit in front by this, because there's something darker to play off of it. I think that helps. So yeah, I mean, and also just put some comp glows, or do it in render if you want to add volumetrics to the crystal ball and the hands and the butterflies. That all make it feel a little more lively, and magic too. So I did like paint the insides of her sleeves darker again, because to make it feel like, I mean, there, she's picking up some light because of the angle of this thing, but some parts, like the top part, probably wouldn't be getting any light. So, that kind of helps a little bit, just to, you need some dark parts to make the bright parts feel bright. And unfortunately, these sleeves were kind of killing you, because it was, you're drawing even inside her hair, like light spots, where you otherwise kind of expect shadow to happen or shading to happen, So like her face, it's almost completely even across, except it actually gets brighter there, which is a little odd, right? So, I mean, she makes her more anime kind of, but not in a 3D way.
Mm-hmm.
So, if again, if you turn the rims and kicks is off from the arms, then hopefully, it'll be a little bit more naturally shaded along the sides. What else? Oh, yeah. So also, you can, this thing being so close to the table, expect some speck there. And just, kind of more light and glow on the stand as well. This piece of paper got a little too dark. Like if it's a white piece of paper, I don't think it would ever really go quite that dark, just because, they're semi-transparent too. And it's like any little bit of light just really picks up. So just brighten that up a little bit. And, if you can cheat a little bit of pink on it, all the better. So yeah, her hat. Yeah, I think if you just, get a little bit of speck on the parts that feel slightly metallic, and, there would be a little bit of speck there probably too, because this thing is hitting it pretty hard. That helps give it some dimension. I know this is just geo hair, so you're not going to get, hair specks, but even just the mass, if you could get a little bit more shape in that, that'll help. And the eyes, okay, that's a big one. So, I know these are kind of painted anime eyes, but I really, I don't understand what's going on with the pupils being pink. Is that in the material, or is it actually reflecting these things, or?
Oh yeah, no, that's in the material.
Yeah, I think you should, well, unless you feel strongly about it, or this is some character that I don't know about, because I don't know about many of them. I would clean up the eyes.
Okay.
And, you really kind of want a big old eye ding from this thing, because she's staring right at it, and it definitely would help. And it could be bigger, you could make them bigger in this case, because that sort of fits with the aesthetic as well. So, I did paint in some highlights on some of the, even on her skin, and she just tried to get a little bit more modulation in it. I know her face is, her face geo is relatively simple. So maybe that stuff wouldn't come up naturally, but if it does, great. If it's just being totally blown out, then, well, maybe the light is too bright. I don't know. Oh, but you added a light here, right? See what's
Yeah.
okay. I see
Yeah, there's a second one
there, but but these are self-illuminated. That's why they're not getting any light, probably, right?
Yeah, they're just kind of clashing with each other.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't, you'd really have to play it up to make it work. And I think that's gonna fight too many other things. You might want to just make these darker, even, so you don't think about it as much and just let the hands come out. Unless, again, this is some character that I don't know about, you need to stick with it. Yeah, so all the books and stuff that are can kind of see this big source would be picking up, speck on their spines, or, whatever their sort of naturally shiny parts are as well. But the big thing is getting this shadow in, so it feels like she's blocking the light. A lot of it got filled in with other stuff, but you still feel it. Okay, I think that's about it. Do you have any questions or comments, or?
No, the paint over helped me visualize it a lot. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okie doke. Angela, is Angela here? No. Okay, well, we'll do this. Oh yeah, she said she couldn't make it. All right, hi Angela. So this was your being last week and this week. So yeah, much more underlit. The reference, there's the reference. So yeah, I think it's much closer. This is where it was last week and this week. So really the only thing I have to say about this is, I mean, I know that Leonardo is pretty dark here, but I still do see a little. Why is that not working? I do see. I do still see color in the fill, right? And I know you have some as well, but some of these areas still, oops, down here feel pretty close to black, a little too close to black for my comfort. So all I did really was just fill that in a little bit. And, you know, it might be brighter than the reference. And, well, yeah, a little bit. But, so you could probably go a little bit darker as long as it doesn't feel gray and dirty, which is harder to do the darker you get. And especially in CG, like in real world stuff, maybe it doesn't feel as bad. But when it's CG, if it's actually pushing black, it feels broken. So yeah, great. And you got nice colors everywhere else, and I think there's a good amount of fill everywhere. And then when you get into here, it's not just the value, it's the dinginess, it's the grayness. So I mean, if you could red that up and have that value, that would, you know, be okay. This is a little bit, this is redder, but it's brighter. So maybe it could be a little bit less. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's darker. It's still got some color in it. But yeah, good job. I think you're done with this. Or, you know, take this one pass, try to fill that in a little bit, and then move on. I know you've done quite a bit this month already, so good job. Bipul, are you here? You are here. Okay, this thing looks great. I think it looks terrific. Let's see here. Okay, so this is where you were last week and this week. So let's see. You brought this down, sort of removed some or lessened the atmo.
Yes.
Got the gobo in, made him more saturated. This is all a lot darker. It's pretty dark, but I think it works. I think it works great because, you know, you have sort of this dark zone and this dark zone. And they're neither are dark, you know, but they're doing a great job of framing, you know, this. And you know, that's kind of what you wanted initially, like, you know, to have this all bright, like the Toy Story 2 color key. I think that not only is that feeling there, I think it in some ways is better because you have the contrast to this stuff. I mean, if you feel like it should be a little bit brighter, like, you know, go ahead, put some color in here and get it a little bit darker, and you could even fill these shadows a little bit. You know, obviously, I have feelings about the gobo there and being able to spot his face in the ball. So, but you know, you could still cheat a little bit more light in here if you feel that way.
Okay.
And let's see. So let me go back to this. And I think we should just play this. It is for everyone because it's a really nice piece. Well, you did a good job.
Thanks.
So I mean, I personally, I love that when he's starting his move, it's basically in darkness, or hopefully, that gobo has some openings in it, so he's kind of jumping through dappled light. I mean, it happens really fast, so it's not like you're going to see a lot of it. But just kind of like when he jumps up onto the chair, he's moving through parts that have light and some have light and some don't have light. And that makes him feel even more like he's in hiding, because he's not just totally lit up. All right, so I think you did a nice job on the textures on the dog food. That's much better. I mean, I don't have a lot to say. It maybe okay. Well, all right. I'll show you the one frame that I did paint first. So this one looks fine. Looks great. This one. All right. So the pieces of dog food that are in the shadow, I mean, it makes sense that they're darker. They naturally would be darker, but it just doesn't feel quite right. They look so different that I think you should just cheat those up a little bit, like get a little bit of top light on them or something, or paint them in comp. I think it helps. They're not as bright as these guys, but they're closer. So they still feel like they're in the shadow without feeling like they're totally cheated. And here, I'm kind of feeling like, oh, why are these so different than these? Are these milk duds? And these are something else. Because these look like chocolate again because they're darker. But yeah, okay, now they all look like Raisinets. It's fine. That's it. The one other possible thing. Let's see here. All right, and this will. What did I do here? All right, so when he actually throws the ball, like it may be totally cool. Like it's nice that it goes into darkness as he's getting ready to pitch it. So this may be fine, and you really will have to see it in motion to know. I don't know why that doesn't work, but it might be a little bit dark. So you might want to just cheat this a little bit brighter, like not like it's out in light, like it's not like this frame, but just a little bit more light on it. And if this thing's motion blurred, it may be totally different too. But I think cheat it a little bit. Sorry, you were saying something?
No, I was saying okay.
Okay. I mean, it's minor, but that's really it. I mean,
What do you think about the eyes?
well, they're a little hot, maybe. They're kind of burning out a little bit here. So yeah, I guess but like there, they look great. Yeah, I mean, I suppose all of this might be a little hot, or I don't mind it on his skin so much. Will it be better if maybe you could lower the diffuse a little bit and cheat the speck up a little so that you see more texture. I don't know. But I mean, I kind of like the feeling of it though. So yeah, maybe just bring the eyes down a little bit. They're a little hot, but you know, it's not that far off. I think it's okay.
Okay.
That's
The
a
floor were
little,
floor was a little overexposed, so I wanted to get the same feeling on his face.
yeah, I like that. I think it's appropriate, you know. Like maybe it needs just a little bit of glow or something on it to make it feel overexposed and right. But you know, I mean, like these eyes are fine. You might have to just like, okay, maybe here it's a little hot. And the dog.
And about the hiding, I kind of like it because it is in the shape of a window. So, but I don't think I'm not sure about it.
Window makes sense in this case, for sure. Is that happening naturally, or you have a
No, I
tool to
think
track it in or something? Or?
no, I've added an area light at the window, so I think it is reflecting on the eye.
Okay. I mean, this is all mushing together a little bit. Like it would be, if possible, you know, better if you could get a little bit of difference between the skin and the sclera, the white of the eye. But you know, this happens really fast, and he's a white dog. It's not a big deal, I don't think. But I mean, I suppose for your reel, you're gonna want to make it perfect. So you could do that.
And is the depth of field okay?
Well, it feels a little strong, but they're very small. So somehow that justifies it to me.
So I've kept both the characters in focus. So is it working?
I think so, yeah. Okay, so the materials on this bowl, like maybe you could tighten up the speck a little bit. Maybe it's a little too rough. Because
Okay.
this is a very broad spec, and because of how bright everything is, it's getting a little bit lost. Like if it had little bit more of, you know, this blue-gray color for longer and the highlight were a little tighter, that might make it read a little bit better. You know, without messing with the color, because I think the color works very well. It's subtle, but it's getting a little bit washed out, so that might help.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there's an area here, and it probably will pass very quickly, where his face, unfortunately, is getting a little bit of shadow from his arms, which, you know, it would, obviously, but it's a little unfortunate. Like maybe in comp, you could just lift these shadows a little bit. You probably have to do it frame by frame, but so that, you know, you see his reaction just a little bit better. I mean, it can be there, it's going to have to be there, but you know, might help. And you said you're going to fix that tongue, right?
Yeah, I just know, I noticed it after I had
Yeah,
rendered everything
no,
out.
that's fine. Yeah, that's it. Same note with these milk duds. But yeah, I think it's a really nice piece. It's going to be great. Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
All right. Okay, so this is MhdHiron. Sorry,
So
what?
yeah, I have to go right now because I have some work. So
Okay. All right, well, this is my last session today, Bipul, but it was nice working with you, and good luck with everything.
yeah, it was great having you. Thanks
All
for
right,
the feedback.
sure thing.
Bye bye.
Bye. All right. I have no idea how to pronounce this, or if this is initials or what, but MhdHiron. So, right, or MhdH iron. I'm not sure. Anyway, so here's your, I guess, Peaky Blinders reference, and your Fall Guys. Okay, so big thing is if you look at the shadow direction here, you can trace back to where the light probably is. And it's not actually here, it's probably further back, even more out of frame than this. But it's not so far that all the shadows are parallel. The rays aren't parallel, but it's got to be pretty far away, because they are fairly parallel. There's not a lot of perspectival spreading of these rays, right? Now, as opposed to yours, which, okay, this guy's shadow is here, this guy's shadow is going this way, this guy's shadow is going that way, which pretty much implies that the light that's casting the shadow is really close, like right here. And that the hotspot on the floor or the site pretty much gives that away as well. And you've got super rims there, and it's fallen off so much that you're not getting much here. And it looks like you have a second light that's reflected here, the yellow one that has the volumetrics on it. And I don't know if there's another light, if there's a fill light, or if this is just the fog is sort of like, lifting everything. If that's the case, you need a fill light. I know it's a little hard to tell here because they've gone so heavy on the fog, but if the fog went away, this stuff wouldn't be black. You'd still see stuff, detail in there. I'm not as sure that would happen if you turned your lights, if you turned your volumetrics off. But if that's the case, then I'm wrong, and no problem. Sorry. The other thing is your shadows are really sharp, and so I'm assuming the point light that you have there is probably very, very small, or it defaults to no radius at all. Even though these shadows, they're fairly sharp, so that light is probably not huge, because these are fairly distinct, but they're not super CG crisp. Like these are there's no difference in the spread of the line here, here, or here, or here. Maybe a little bit there, and it's probably just getting lost in volumetric. So couple of things then. I mean, first, definitely you want to move that light way out there somewhere, and it's got to be a lot bigger so that you don't get these super crisp shadows. And then you'll get shadows from the legs too, which you're not getting here. I mean, you're getting some going that way from this volumetric light, but you want it from the key. And play with the radius, because even though in your reference they're relatively sharp, you don't want them this sharp. Like the shadows will be sharper closer to the feet, and then sort of spread out the further out it gets. So like these are extra sharp. Back out here, it's spread a little bit, so it's not as sharp. So that's a feeling you should go for. And I would exaggerate it a little bit just to understand how it works, like play around with those values. All right, so on Raghavendra. This is, let's see. It is not last week. Oh, it is last week, I think. Yeah, all right, so that's last week. This is this week. So you sort of recovered her skin tone. She's not as bright and not as yellow. And it's a little bit more shape on the shirt, got a little bit darker. It's there's some sense of atmosphere here. It's bluer in the background buildings and on the ground. Looks like you moved the lamps a little bit. That's okay. And I think that's pretty much it. So, okay. I think when you when you darkened her overall, you know, I had mentioned this part. You got to be careful here, because if you bring down her key or her key and fill or whatever was making her too bright, that is going to tend to make this too dark unless you compensate. And I doesn't look like you did. I don't know if you did do it. I apologize. And you're not. It just needs to be more, because you know, here it was okay and was almost a little dark here because she's feeling a little bit 5 o'clock shadowy as it is. But now that's a lot. I mean, it's pretty dark. I mean, it's good that it at least has color in it, because you know you brought this kick light up, and I think you know that definitely helps tie things to the background and you know this side as well. So you know overall that's positive, and there's blue in the shadows there from that. That helps. It's just that this area feels too dark to me. It's you know it is still kind of a portrait thing for her, and I think even in your reference, she's not that dark. I forget her name. Is that Dakota Fanning? I forget. Anyway, so all right, I did a paint over, or I just filled that a little bit. A couple things. One, right there, it feels weird that this rim light is going. It feels like it's going behind her hair. I don't know if you have a light that's tied to her body geo and not her hair or something. But given that the rim is coming from you know side and back, it doesn't feel right that her hair isn't shadowing that area. So sorry, like that. Like this is that feels like that rim, and I don't know how that's happening back there. And yeah, I think it was happening in your reference, but her ear was more exposed. So yeah, that's kind of it. I just brought these darks up a little bit, kept the color in there. You know, this area in particular is important, because if that gets too dark and it gets too smoky looking, she just, you know, doesn't look as good. You know, if you're looking for something super contrasty, I guess you could do that, but then you would really need to carry that out in the entire set as well. And I just don't think this set is made for that, because it's an exterior and it's too open, and it doesn't feel quite right to me to do that. And your reference was interior, so it's a little bit different. And even still, the darks in there were not as dark. I don't think I have it here, but okay. All right, but I mean, it's close. So we just try to hit that. That is it for the stuff that people posted. And I see a bunch of you guys I haven't seen in a while, and I don't think you posted it. Oh, Michelle, 9:10, you did it to me again. Let me see if I can pull that up. You know what? Give me a minute. I'm going to stop the recording for a second and then just try to pull it in so we can look at it in context. Okay. Okay. Welcome back, Michelle. You got your stuff here. Oh yeah, that's much better. Yeah, and it's really starting to come together. I love what's going on down here and on her face. It's terrific. This may be a little bit hot here. Are you still playing with the caustic thing, or? Michelle, you're muted.
Yes, I'm still trying to mess with the caustics, but that is, I believe, just from me trying to brighten up the bounce light. I definitely went overboard with that.
It's a little too much because it's starting to feel like a metal boat, like an aluminum boat. Yeah, and the hat. Not quite sure. Like, is this too bright? Well, it's not as bright as that. I guess that's okay.
I definitely feel like I overdid it though, because now the bottom of the hat is almost the same value as the top. So I
Yeah.
need to still.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the hat overall is probably fine. And probably what you need to do with the hat is actually sort of maybe, whoops. Oh yeah, I'm using the back. That doesn't work. Okay, why is this not working? All right, I'm not painting. I don't know why. All right, well, I'm just gonna have to pretend. So, maybe have the core of this be a little bit darker and then actually, sort of more the key side on the top, let it go a little bit brighter. I mean, it's pretty even, not totally even from one side to the other, but the sort of the front of the hat, like over his face, probably should be a little bit brighter. And then maybe it got a little bit too bright, way deep in there. Like around the rim, it's probably fine. It does feel like there's a lot of light bouncing up. But are you cheating this? Like bounce light up into his hair and hat and stuff?
Yes, there's two. I have two area lights at the front and the back to shoot light up the top, but those values are way too high.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine to have them there. Maybe you need some more fall off on them or something. Because it, again, like this area in front feels as bright as it is deeper into the hat. And, ideally, it feels a little bit more like that, where it still feels dark up high, but towards the lip of it, it's picking up bounce light and not as strong as what's coming in on top. Yeah, it's funny. Like this one was so bright that it gave you nice contrast. Yeah, but I mean, I think if the front of that, happens, it'll be okay. I mean, I like the specks that are happening on his hair. He's a little bit flat, but he's still, he's got some shape to him. Maybe, I mean, does his skin pick up much specularity? Maybe that's what it needs a little bit. I wish I could paint. Don't know why this happens. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so yeah, that like his arms feel a little hot. And again, like, I don't, what did I do here? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to pick a side. Like the key should probably still be brighter than the bounce. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about how important the bounce off the water is, which it is, but it's also something that, it always feels brighter than what you expect to see down there because we're so like conditioned to have the underside of something feel dark. So that's what makes it feel bright. But if it's actually as bright as what's coming in on top, then it feels wrong. So, and again, if you can manage to get a color difference in, like we were talking about in before in Kristina's piece, if you can get, color contrast working for you as well as value contrast, that helps. So in this case, the underside of the arm is darker, except, where you've got this sort of turquoise kick up there, like the bottom of the boats did. That's kind of phony. Like it might not happen really on his arm. It would happen on a blue boat, but anyway, so, you've got warm light on his arm and a white speck. And then underneath kind of a bounce fill with something, greener, turquoisey or bluer that feels different than what's on top, ideally. Okay, so I love what's going on in her face. That makes a huge difference, I mean, compared to where you were with that. Yeah. So, like we were talking last time, it's kind of okay that the base of her is lit like this. Once you get that bounce in there, though, that really makes it like it feels like, she's in the water. Like, and if this were animated and you had a little bit of noise running through that, a little bit of caustic running through that, so it's sort of fluttered a little bit, that would really sell it, But as a still, you're not gonna feel it. I don't know if it's possible to get a little bit more of the same feeling up underneath her brow. If it's not, I mean, I understand that it's easy to paint this stuff. doesn't necessarily work in real life in CG. But I mean, overall, this is working great. Same thing, with the net. That really, and the specularity on her tail, I mean, that's great. That really feels like light is bouncing out off the water and affecting that. Yeah, it's nice that, you have a little bit more variation in the seaweed and stuff. This looks a little hot, but it's okay. And I'm just glad that, these pearls are darker and, this stuff is a little bit darker. It's working a lot better. There's more variation and the parts that are bright feel like they should be bright because they're exposed to the sun. So I think that's working great. Yeah, I mean, I think the boat's a little hot, as we said, and that's kind of it. Oops.
Thank you.
I
Do
mean,
you
it's
think that the I was worried that the bounce light off onto her cheek makes her lose some of her color because your
well,
painter was so much warmer for her skin tone.
yeah, but it does feel like there's green light on her, you know, and I still, you know, she's got enough areas that I can feel her darkness or brownness still. Like, yeah, if you can tighten it up a little bit and get some other things going, like in the paint over, great. But I think it works. You know, it does feel like one big light. You know, which the water kind of is, so that's okay. But if it broke up a little bit more and hit you know, more surfaces, more downward facing surfaces, like I got the bottom of her ear and the bottom of her chin and the bottom of her brow and the underside of her nose. Again, that's really easy to paint, much harder to do. So I don't know, like, since this is a still, if you can angle some, you know, some bounce lights, and it doesn't have to be one necessarily, and sort of get them in these areas more to make this work a little bit more, you know, great. But it's pretty phony because, I mean, you know, her chin is over her body, so it would have to kind of bounce in from the side. It's like I said, it's easy to paint this stuff. It's when you get into rays and you know, the sort of pseudo physics of CG, it doesn't work that cleanly. So you know, which is a good lesson also in general, like as you move into production roles, like an art director, some color key painter will hand you some beautiful keys that are unachievable. That happens all the time. And I don't know if there's a class on that here, but it's important to interpret the art that you're given. You know, the chances of being able to execute a painting are next to nothing. But it is entirely possible to digest and express the spirit of those paintings. Like, what are the important things, you know, and what can I do to make that come out? So I think in that case, like what you got going here, you know, really, you know, it does get at that. Oh, hey, we could do this. If you can get a little bit of specularity, like as if it's bouncing off the water onto the underside of her hair. Oops, it's not where you are. That's where you are. You know, that would sort of work with this too, and then would increase that feeling. And plus, you know, it's like the same thing you got going on here, but on the underside of her hair. That would add to it a lot, I think. Eye dings. Get them in there. They're always there. You always want them. All right, nice job. So I don't know why I can't pull this in, but I can't. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Caro, what's your question about this?
About the value of the light. I try to download the shirt and the light of the face, and I desaturate a little bit. That you say that it was too warm. But I don't know if that value of the shirt is okay, or maybe a little bit more up.
Yeah, maybe it got a little bit dark. It also, it just kind of lost shape. You know, it's pretty flat. Like, well, I mean, I was kind of fighting your extra key light here. Maybe it's okay. Or you could do this, add where your secondary key was, or slightly behind, like roll it behind, have it be just a lot dimmer so that you get a little bit of roll here, you know, a little bit of light like this, because it does help. Just give it a little bit of shape, but not even as bright as this, you know, if you can manage. Maybe the rim's a little too hot.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, like the arm is great. That looks good. Cigarette looks good. What happened to his hand? He stuck his hand in sprinkles. This side, I mean, I think you might have overfilled his face just a little bit. Do you have a fill light that's ignoring his hat? Like something
No.
linked because it looks like equally bright all the way up into his hat. So, or is the fill kind of low and pointing up at him?
I think I maybe put the exposure a little bit to at the same value of the key light. I think that is what's happening, because it's the fill light fills everything. There is no linking issue there.
I see. Okay, I mean, I guess if you got rid of this key or turned it off, then this is probably all filled then, right? Because before there was a key side that I kind of had to bring down.
Yes.
And then filled this side. But if you got rid of that, then you're filling him evenly, right? Maybe that's what's happening. Okay, I mean, he does feel a little bit even and probably a little bit bright. And I do miss this shadow that was happening naturally underneath his hat. You know, it was still out of his eyes, which is good, but like it feels a little unnatural now. Like the hat just feels like it's stuck on him.
Okay.
It's not shadowing at all. Yeah.
So I took a little of the fill.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just need to move that fill light higher. So, you know, up to the point where you start to get a little bit of shadow. But you probably also need to move it, you know, either to the left or the right. If you bring back a little bit of light shape on his arm, then you could move that fill light, you know, to the screen left. So this side of his face is a little bit brighter than this side. Just you know, a little bit, so it's not completely even, because you know you don't want to get to the point where it's so dark that you need to spot fill in, because that's not going to work so well. His eyes feel a little bit dim. The whites of his eyes, they could be a little bit brighter. I mean, this is probably too bright, but it's kind of getting lost here. It's mostly, it might be because his skin is kind of pretty bright and maybe a little too bright, because the value is pretty close, a little too close for CG character eyes.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool, thanks.
Sure thing. Okay. I think that's it. That's everything that came in today, unless one of you dropped something in even later. I hope not. Okay, cool. Ruby, Andre, haven't heard from you today. Haven't seen anything in a while. This is my last session today, so if you have any questions about your stuff, maybe that I can answer without looking at anything.
I actually was out of town for a couple of weeks, so I wasn't able to do any work. I'll get back to that this week, next week, but I want to thank you for your help.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Thank you.
My pleasure. And good luck with, I'm not sure who's coming next. Maybe it's Dorian next or, yeah. Ruby, how about you? How's things going?
Well, I was still stuck with that wine scene for the technical issues. And then I got 2 more that were also kind of broken. So I was trying to like piece those out and get those working because those one had like a timeline, like a due date thing. And I kind of had to push the personal one for after I get that working because it's weird. Every time I render my wine scene, I feel like I get like a new frame that crashes. And yeah, it's been kind of weird. So I changed the shaders, like I removed them all and I removed the lights and all that. And they keep crashing on those specific frames. So I think I might need to like, I don't know, have like maybe go to like very first iterations or something. I had to walk away from that one for a little bit.
I mean,
Yeah.
can you cut around it?
Yeah.
Or is it in the middle of the shot?
Well, I was doing that. Like I was like rendering the rest of the frames. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna not render those and just do the whole thing. But it does kind of like when I piece it up back in Nuke, like I can see like the blank frame and some of them are like kind of close together, so it does look like it's jumpy. So yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out. I'll let you know how that ends up.
Yeah,
But
well, good
thank
luck
you
with that.
for the feedback that you gave me on that first time. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's just a frame here and there, and there's plenty of room, I mean, you could try to double it, or do like some kind of frame interpolation, between the frames around it, and see if you can just kind of smush it together. It might work. I don't know. Or you could just try dropping it completely. It's not great, but you don't want to get totally stuck either. So
Right.
with technical crap. Okay, well, that's it for today then. Thank you guys. I enjoyed my month with you. It was a lot of fun. I hope I helped you guys a little bit at least. Cool. So good luck with your projects and your next teacher, critic, whoever that is. And I'll probably see you around some other time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the
Good thing.
feedback.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.